Hello, welcome to episode 17 of the Between Two Tales podcast. My name is Kevin. I'm joined by my co-host Dave. Sorry for the delay in posting. We've gone busy. Dave has been sick as well.
Yep.
So I don't know what he has. He might have a new disease for all that we know. The doctors don't even know. But anyway,
I put this hex on me here.
But appreciate all of you who are coming back and tuning in. And of course, welcome to all the new people, new subscribers, new listeners that have come in the past week. So to catch all you newbies up, Dave, why don't you tell them what we do here on the show?
You guys are in for a treat. So for all you new folks, what you're about to witness is a story outlined, written, and thought of and made up from beginning to end in an hour and a half, based off of 5 randomly generated words. We're doing this to demonstrate that really stories and story concepts really come in so many different forms. A lot of people think you have to wait for that piece of inspiration to hit your brain, and that's great. You know, maybe you see something and it elicits something that you want to create and write. That's amazing too. But we're just trying to demonstrate as well. It doesn't always have to be that way. It could be from something completely random, like 5 random words. And you can create a story from there, or at least an outline that you can work and better hone and make better and elaborate on certain ideas. Is really the basis of how you create a story and keep it moving. And then at the very end, so once we come up with our story, and we know what it is, Kevin does this little fancy thing here, very new aged thing that we do at the end here to prepare our stories. Kevin, what is that?
So we play with a tool called ChatGPT, which is on version 4, and we give it the same prompts that Dave and I used to generate this story to see what kind of story the AI can generate. And what we've noticed from version to version of this software, it's gotten a lot better, but still hasn't quite been able to hold its ground against good old-fashioned human creativity yet. But it's certainly getting pretty good. Definitely getting pretty good. I also have another surprise for today that I'm throwing another monkey wrench into our constraints on top of what we already used, just to throw some more randomness in there and just put a bit of challenge. But first, let's generate our words.
Oh, this man's not even telling me.
Just don't start the clock just yet after we generate our words.
Okay.
We gotta generate more stuff.
Uh-oh. Let's see how good we are.
5 words. 1 spin. Here we go. Remember, cheese, cheeseburger, cheesesteak, hay, contrary, troop. Interesting. This is a good mix of really specific and vague words. Like contrary, remember, and then we have obviously cheese and hay and troop. All right. Now to generate the second bit of challenge for us, we are going to generate 2 random pictures.
Oh.
That will serve as scenes, possibly go in the world building, or maybe items within the story. We don't know until we generate them. 1 spin.
Random pictures. Okay.
A pomegranate and what is this?
Like a wall, like an industrial park, some kind of park, and then
I'm looking at the link. It says Horizon Observatory Dump.
Yeah, maybe it's like one of those parks where it serves 2 purposes.
Horizon. All right, let me just write this down. A pomegranate. And I mean, we don't have to really go off what it really is. We can just use this scenery here. Let me draw a quick picture of it.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I feel like there's a childhood toy that this looks like, but I forgot what it's called. You know what I'm talking about? Where the rings are like going around the thing and you have to pull them off or something like that.
Oh.
I don't know. Maybe I'm just making stuff up.
Probably you are. All right. I'm going to start the timer here.
All right. Start the timer.
So I'm Googling this park just because I'm curious to see if it gives me any other information.
I'll send you the link to where that image is.
I found many photos of it. I wonder if nothing here really tells me where is it. Where does one go to find it?
That's a good question. Where does one find the Horizon Observatory It says hailed Howard. I don't know what that means.
Yeah, I typed that in. Is a mountain from the earth of Bill. What in the world?
I mean, it looks pretty cool.
Coal mining. Yeah, you would think for something like this, you could say, where is it?
Right.
Okay, hold on. Located between the cities. Okay, hold on.
So we have.
Okay. It seems to be in Germany.
Is there like a space station there? What is it used for, or what was it? I guess
That's a good question.
the Horizon Observatory.
Oh, okay. You think it would just say, "Oh, this is in Germany."
Right.
As this is. Nope.
Herten, Germany.
Interesting.
What is this place used for? It looks like a hiking ground.
Yeah, it looks like people kind of just go there and hang out a little bit.
Yeah. Well, we can choose whatever history we want to put around it.
Yeah.
Let's say,
Because, it could be where something happens, something is revealed there, maybe.
Yeah.
And
even maybe that ring that's on the outer edge, when it's moving from one end to the other, creates a force field, but it stopped.
And maybe
right
it's
now.
something that doesn't move. But whatever the secret is, whatever the thing is, it shifts. And it's like something that's not supposed to ever move. And then it does because
it reveals a secret passage underneath.
There's a good aerial picture of it looking the town. And it's just one big, large. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely used to be a dump. You can tell that's where they used to put things. And then they just put this walking area on top of it to, I guess, beautify the location. So that's interesting. So if it's a dump, things get thrown away. So maybe there's something in there that we want, by finding it, it helps with the clue. I don't know why I'm going straight to mystery. Maybe because this feels like a mystery.
Yes. And while they're looking at this place, they find a rotten pomegranate and some rotten cheese.
All right. I found it on Google Maps. I was looking for on Google Maps. I was like, where is this thing?
Looks like it could be used to launch missiles, too.
Oh, wait. Yeah.
Or looks like, one of those things where you walk through the other side of the arch, enter a dimension or a whole new world, or maybe this is a gateway. It could be a gateway to another world, parallel worlds, what have you.
Like once the top piece that looks like it can, it clinks over to the other side, and then all of a sudden you have a gateway into, I don't know, we kind of were doing another universe before, another parallel universe, but just another world, another universe in that.
Could rip open a dimension to some demons and monsters that come through.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm starting to draw some lines now. Whatever our main character is doing, it sounds like we're headed towards he's searching for something.
Yeah.
Whatever he's doing, maybe he sees a sketch of this thing, and then he remembers, using one of our words, that he used to come to this spot. Or this thing it looked way different back in the day.
Yeah. His memory, or just so happens to remember, like, I think that's where I need to go. Or remembers a separate clue that then leads to this observatory or this
dump, gateway, missile launch pad, whatever.
And it was interesting. We have these words. So like pomegranate and cheese, maybe they have a little board and they eat some pomegranate, they eat some cheese and some bread.
A charcuterie board.
Yeah, maybe it is a short board. I try to say it like a Frenchman. I'm sure we get some comments on that.
Maybe he's a weirdo that likes to put cheese on his pomegranate. That's just the quirk of his character.
So maybe one idea is person who loses their memory and
loses his memory
and has to save the world. Maybe save himself. It can get very Jason Bourne-y, and people are coming after him. He doesn't know why. He doesn't have his memory.
Yeah, it could be.
Troop. Troop or group of soldiers, a group of people or animals. I mean, if we do a group of soldiers, maybe as he gets closer and closer to the truth, he comes across a troop of soldiers who they try to stop him. There's a governmental aspect to this.
Right.
with something, right? Because one of the ideas here is, loses memory, has to save the world. Just a kind of basic thing. But there might be something else that he needs to do, or he or she needs to do.
Let's see. Something else they might need to do.
Yeah.
Trying to figure out.
Or you could have this kind of a right turn. All right, this Horizon Observatory dumps in Germany. Not that it really matters what I'm going to say, but I started thinking kind of more political in the sense where, maybe there's a moment where our main character has to go here to exchange information or something like this. And there's some kind of government conspiracy. This person's in the middle of either unveiling or doing this government conspiracy. So hero or anti-hero. They have to go here to meet up with someone. And then we kind of build in our words here. But like, say if there's like civil unrest in Germany, which is not a good thing. And this person, this person is either aiding it or trying to stop it.
Right.
Or there's a secret, maybe, I believe it was World War I that started off after an assassination of a king or prince or something like this, someone royal. So with that idea, maybe there's an assassination of someone. And so it starts off with an assassination of someone important, and then it kind of cascades into civil unrest, regime, different governmental change that people want, and they're trying to do it physically and violently. And this person may know the truth, and they're trying to get the truth out there while not trying to get killed as the folks who want this thing to actually happen because they have more sinister plans, try to stop them or her.
Right. What if our character is kind of like he's kind of like an extremist on, like, let's just say he's patriotic. Like, he's very extremist. This observatory site, what if it was a site for a nuclear warhead? And there's like codes underground, press some buttons and a little door comes through and then a nuke shoots up. Maybe he's trying to get rid of a dictator that's in another country, but he doesn't necessarily agree with, let's just call him American. He doesn't necessarily agree with the president, how the president is handling the situation with this dictator.
So he tries to blow up part of America in order to stop the U.S. president.
Well, he's trying to send this nuke overseas. Let's keep the nuke out of America. I mean, it could be on American soil. Maybe it won't be a nuke, but it could be like a rocket or something.
How in the world did he get this nuke?
Well, he gets the access code from somewhere, and then he follows clues to go find the site.
Send it.
Yeah. Maybe the president is trying to strike a deal with this dictator who's a known terrorist or something. He doesn't like that.
That's interesting. If the U.S. president is trying to strike a deal with, say, the prime minister or chancellor for Germany, and this extremist doesn't like that they're in cahoots or doesn't like that they're doing something that he considers evil.
You think it's a detriment to the U.S. or whatever country that we decide to make, whatever nationality we decide to make him. So in his mind, he's doing this for the good of the country.
Whatever country he's from.
Because he thinks the president is leading the country to a very downward spiral. So maybe he's double time trying to assassinate the president as well as take out this dictator, this evil dictator.
I'm not sure. I think an extremist angle is interesting, but it brings up certain questions around, like, how in the world is this person able to get access to what they get access to? This person's backstory would have to be like,
he has to be working in the government already.
Yeah, he has to be working for the government,
and he has to be
in a position. And that's why I wonder if there's some part of the story that's also centered around that. Like, there's betrayal, pretty much, and then there's, like, after you commit the betrayal, it's like there could be a hunting component, or the act of betrayal happens at the end and we kind of build up to it.
Yeah, or maybe this person was in a very secret program created by the government, and now he's basically getting revenge on the country. Maybe like he's causing to to them he's a terrorist, but maybe he's just getting revenge on his own country and just trying to expose some secrets or whatever. That could be interesting too.
When you talk about extremism in Germany, and I think of today, it kind of makes me think of like the immigration policies of Germany and other EU states to bring in Muslim refugees. And I know that has caused quite a bit of problem in their country and other countries too, where they feel like their country is being overrun or, bringing in too many Muslim peoples. And I wonder if the story is like you have, like, it's very kind of more realistic, or realistic in the sense of like what's happening today. That's what I mean. But you kind of have this crescendo of civil unrest because of this. People are marching in the streets. They want their country back in a sense. And then so you start this extremist, and it's like, this guy, what is this man willing to do? Is he willing to bomb them with homemade bombs or shoot people or something like this, something crazy? The only thing with this is, I think we would want to see the reversal. So the arc it goes from extreme hate to understanding and compassion. And so it's like you have that character change based in something that's kind of happening today, or some folks feel this way. And we have this civil unrest, and then we kind of just ratchet it up.
Yeah. All right. What about this kind of came together while you were talking about that? Let's just say there's two countries that are warring with each other over like borders or some land in between. Country A calls for a truce with country B that has the evil dictator and opens up its borders to country B's people. So that causes just civil unrest altogether. But the MC, the main character, he knows how evil the dictator is because he's been a part of some missions to try to assassinate this guy, but failed. So he knows of all like the classified stuff about this guy.
About the prime minister or whatever you want to call them.
Yeah. And he's trying to, he sees this truce as like, maybe there's some corruption on the part of the president of his country, or like
this individual actor sees corruption between these prime ministers or whatever, these leaders.
Yeah, so he's taken the violent way to stop it. And I was thinking towards the end, maybe he dies because obviously he's not doing justified things. In his mind, it's justified, but and then he dies, but maybe releases and exposes the information between the corruption between his country's president and this other guy.
Well, and just so that we're clear, what corruption means to him may not be, corruption. What corruption means to him is, what could mean is, all right, these two countries are going to work together to bring in or to do things that this person doesn't like. Let's just say if it was around immigration. So to him, corruption is like, you're letting these people in, the hell is this? But then he does these terrorist acts to try to stop this and put this out in the media. Some rally around him and some don't. I mean, that's what it is to be an extremist. You're extreme. And so, okay, so that's happening. I got an image in my head, and it's not something that probably should, I'll say it. So with the idea of hate keeps the world blind and it corrupts. Hate itself also corrupts. And with that idea, I had this imagery where it's like he's trying to bomb out the PM or someone in their office or something, right? The prime minister or someone, right? And sets the bomb, does all this stuff, says, we're bringing on a new day or whatever. And as the bomb is going to go off, the goddamn school bus comes up. The bus driver doesn't know, the bomb is set and hidden. School bus comes up, blows up, kills some youths. And then it's like he was trying to do this thing to save what he considered to save the youth of their country between these corrupt countries laying in these folks. But he ended up doing a crime that he himself also thinks is despicable towards children. And that might lead to him getting arrested and for him being hunted and then committing suicide or something. I don't know. But there's something in there but then again, that brings it to a certain level. Like that ratchet.
Ooh, what if he's a double agent and he's on the side of one country? He was put there because the country he's from knows that country is working together with them, but still trying to assassinate the dictator. So he's put there, and his job is to thwart all these assassination attempts because he makes it to that level. He just sabotages it in some way, but in doing so causes collateral damage, like you were talking about. Like
That's pretty much what it is, collateral damage. So it's trying to stop a dictator from doing things, and he himself does something horrible, accidentally as it is. Yeah.
As a byproduct, basically.
Yeah.
That would be interesting, from the eyes of a double agent, because he's there as a spy, but...
And then it also kind of changes. That's interesting, too, from the standpoint of, it. All right, he's a double agent, does this thing, more or less justified in trying to take out this dictator, does this thing up, and I feel like the country, the dictator, like, they're like, go after this man. They might not even know he's a double agent just yet. But it's just like they don't even.
Maybe someone on his team figures him out, covers him,
because, right? Or just, as gets paint in the bad light because he did what he did.
Because as double agent, he's got to be there from the beginning. He's got to be placed there and work his way up.
The country may not even associate themselves with him. Like, I don't know who that man is, even though he's working for them. But they're like, they just won't claim him. They're like, who? Nah.
Yeah, it's a top secret mission.
That man is one of y'all's.
Yeah, his only job is to relay information back when he can and try to sabotage.
Basically, top secret mission goes wrong, and he needs to survive his mistake and get out of the country. All the other things around it is, the top secret mission is to stop this dictator. He's a double agent. Yada yada yada. Does this thing that he's trying to stop. This dictator goes horribly wrong, and then he needs to try to get away and escape. He tries to go back to his original country or tries to have them protect him, and they're like, who? I don't know you. And
basically
figure out another path.
Well, let's just make sure we have the dynamic right. The country he's from, let's just say the country he's working for is trying to assassinate the person from the country he's from.
Right, and he's living in that country that person who needs to be assassinated is in. So, it's like saying, David, me, I'm trying to assassinate someone. I live in the U.S. The person lives in the U.S. Canada is the one that's employing me pretty much back.
And you're sabotaging the missions within the U.S., but something horribly goes wrong.
Yeah.
And then now Canada doesn't have your back either.
Right.
You're basically going rogue.
Well, so that's a good question. What happens after? Because you can go rogue. He can attempt again. He could be looked at as a pariah. Everyone that he does know in that country is just like, this man's a terrorist. I mean, once he put his picture out and like, he killed these people.
I think
he's a terrorist.
What would be interesting is he goes rogue and he just exposes all these things that are going on both sides and just causes a giant war.
This man said no good feelings.
Nah.
Here's the thing. It depends on what that action is. Part of me is like, what is the action that he does that is heinous? Because there's different types. You kill a school bus full of children accidentally. People want you to be in jail. Rightly so, or worse. So, or is it something else? Maybe two adults were walking by. They got knocked. Something like this. All in the attempt to get the dictator. So like that action of what happens is important to how this should play out because, this is going to want a certain ending, if you will, of like, this guy is not great. Betrayed his own country, dictator or not, and then killed innocent people.
Trying to think how that should play out. I'm thinking now this observatory can be like the secret meeting spot between where both presidents or whatever from both countries are supposed to meet, but the country he's spying on plans to assassinate the other president before they even gets there. And then he goes in there and maybe sabotages it in some way, but causes collateral damage. And maybe the countries start blaming each other. And then somehow, some way, he gets blamed. And now they're both after him or something.
Yeah. Either way, this can go down. I think we're pretty much saying the a things. It's just a matter of how do we want it to look. But mission stop the president or PM or whatever from the other country or the country he's currently in. Stop him.
He's trying to stop the attempted assassination.
Oh, in this version, he's trying to stop the attempted assassination. So he's a good guy trying to stop something bad.
Well, that's the reason why the country is employing him. So because they know that the country that they're trying to deal with is trying to assassinate the leader from their country. So he's put there to try to thwart their attempts.
Okay.
But in doing so,
if the other country knows that they're trying to kill their PM, they wouldn't bring their PM there. But if they're trying to assassinate this person, one way or another, regardless if they show up in this country or not, then it's like, okay, yeah, we have this double agent. He's feeding us information about their plots, and then we'll make them active when it's time to put a stop to it. Once we have solid proof that they had, and that's what it really comes down to, right? They get solid proof that the country and its leaders were trying to assassinate their leader. So like he gets that solid proof, he goes to, and then he gets activated to put a stop to this effort. Now, who does this person assassinate? I don't know. Do they assassinate the leader? Do they assassinate some middlemen?
You mean as collateral damage?
Sure.
Or what?
Right. Say the assassination is authorized by the head of state. Are they actually going to try to send them to go after the head of state, or those who the head of state's employees or acts to try to do the assassination?
I think it'd be more interesting if the state that he's employed to, the state that he's playing the other side on, tries to assassinate the leader from the state he's from, and he's going to stop that.
To stop the attempted assassination of their leader.
Yeah, from the inside.
So it's like they want to kill their leader, and they're like, "Oh, we have our double agent. Now we know you're trying to kill them. We're going to kill you." Reverse.
Yeah, basically, it's like, let's say you're the leader. It's starting to sound confusing, so let's just clear this up. Let's just say you're the leader of a country, right? And I'm the double agent. Your country employed me just to be a spy within this country I'm in.
Yeah. And
the leaders from the country I'm in and playing a spy on is plotting to assassinate you. So I'm here to kind of thwart those attempts from the inside.
Right.
Stop you from being assassinated.
Right. And then it's like the person who actually ends up getting assassinated, if they do, is from the same country that you're from.
It could happen that way, yeah.
It could. Well, that's what I'm saying. It could happen. We didn't really talk about if they actually do succeed, but
it could happen that way, or maybe he messes up and people from the country he's spying on ends up being killed, like really top people, and it just causes this big unrest where they're looking for a mole on the inside, or they're trying to put blame on the country he's from, and then you're like, "Oh, I don't know you. That's not our guy."
Reverse agent. I mean, can you remember? I say reverse because he's an agent already for his current country. Supposed to be spying, but he's a double agent, so he's helping the other country.
Yeah,
with their goal. So reverse Uno, and then
play the reverse Uno card on them.
Exactly, on his own leaders, on his own countrymen's leaders, and then whether they succeed, whether the other country succeeds through him, or we have this moment where he does something terribly wrong. And then now both countries kind of place it on him as they place the blame on him.
Yeah, there should be. They should definitely go after him for something.
Yeah,
and maybe like the version of what's that CIA FBI thing, Quantico. The version of Quantico that he goes through. His roommate and best friend from Quantico is hunting him. Is like giving the order to try and kill him. That would make it kind of interesting.
Yeah. This man said he wants his best friend to try to capture him and murder him.
We went through Quantico together. How could you?
All right. Let's get our protagonist names real quick. Just about 50 minutes, a little bit more.
George. Lucas.
Georgia, the jungle. So, all right, because one of our locations is in Germany, I'm saying that we do a person in Germany, or like a protagonist is
In Germany.
in Germany, and then the country that he double agents for pretty much is Russia. I don't know. Could be.
Could be, or we just make up some country names.
We can piss off some people.
He's double agenting for Australia. They're up to no good. People from down under. No offense to all our Australian subscribers. Yeah, whatever.
Sure, we can do Australia. I feel like they don't get all the fun in these kind of.
Yes, these are some interesting times when Australia has become a military leader.
This guy
double
needs
agenting.
a good German name.
Hans, or
It's always
another one I was just thinking about. German male name: Willem, Ralph, Friedrich, Eldritch,
Dirk.
Dirk is pretty good. Irwin, Herrick, Theodore. You can go with Dirk.
Till. Alfie.
Conrad, Aldrich, Siegfried,
Siegfried.
Sigmund, Nicholas.
Yeah, Nicholas is one, huh? Okay. Let's just go with Bruno.
Ulrich.
Oh, I just saw that. Aldrich Siegfried.
Aldrich Cheeseburger.
I'll go pissing off some people now. Aldrich. Best friend?
Another German dude. Probably. Diedrich.
Make it simple.
Martin. Winfried. Yeah, we could do Aldrich and Hans.
Yeah. PM.
Prime Minister.
Well, I think for Germany it's Chancellor.
Oh. Chancellor.
And then I think for Australia it's Prime Minister.
Chancellor Heisenberg.
Or we just call them Chancellor and Prime
Yeah,
Minister. It's different.
Just keep it simple. Chancellor and Prime Minister. Double agents.
Prime Minister of Australia. Anthony.
Troop.
Okay.
Troop. Scoop.
Cool. So, main conflict. I mean, we have this story here of, double agent, attempted assassinations, and then a will to continue to survive after both countries have issued his death warrant, so to speak. Does that sound like the game plan? Yes. So, how do we start this crazy story? Where do we begin? Let's look at.
He's eating some schnitzel and cheese.
He's eating a pomegranate and cheese. All right, we start in a cafe.
Gotta have the schnitzel. The schnitzel with the snot.
We're about to hit some of these things here. We start in a cafe outside of the dump. Because where the dump is, there's another city area. So, like, this little town close by.
How old is he already in, the agent training program?
Yeah. Well, I don't even think he's in the training program. I think we can just do that with flashbacks.
Oh, okay.
Like, he's about to get
already an agent.
Yeah.
He's already an agent.
He's already an agent, right? So, he starts off in a cafe outside, close to Aldrich.
It's with his friend Hans.
Okay. It's with Hans eating pomegranates and cheese. Hey, pomegranates and cheese.
Aldrich looks at Hans putting cheese on his pomegranate. He's like, "What are you doing, you freak?"
Then he starts to eat hay, pomegranates and cheese.
He's like, "Don't knock it till you try it."
Top secret info regarding the uprise in. Wait, so who has? Is it Germany that has the dictatorship at this point in time? I mean, they also don't have to. It could also be Australia, and the Germans want to go after the Australians. He's feeding the information to Australians, letting that dictator know they want.
I think maybe it makes more sense for Australia since they're more secluded.
Yeah,
and they're kind of their own thing.
So they're eating cheese, discussing its info regarding the uprise in Australia. I'm going to keep it kind of vague, but Hans expresses his disdain for the PM in Australia. Yeah, just because we set it up because he's going to express his disdain for him. Aldrich will also express it, but then we find out that he actually is working for them. So it's like he's lying. So Hans expresses his disdain for the PM in Australia.
He says,
Aldrich
It says, how can the Australians bar our trading? They want to keep everything to themselves.
How do Australians can bar their trading? They want to isolate themselves even further. Okay, so we have this little tidbit. Now, a timer goes off, and the two get up and walk out of the cafe. We are now on the dump mountain.
What's the dump mountain? Is that where the observatory is?
Yeah. They walk down the pathway, and we see two mysterious figures waiting in the distance. The duo stops walking in front of, or whatever, you know what I mean? The duo stops in front of them, and then we have to figure out, like, what's going on here. So this might be a chance for, like, these guys. So he's a double agent, but, like, he's still working for the German agency. So this might be a chance for them to get an assignment, or they find out some tidbit information where they get a secret file or package or whatever, and then they open it or whatever, and then they find out that an imminent assassination attempt is coming for the Chancellor. And maybe we find out later, so Hans and Aldrich are like, all right, we got to stop this. But maybe we find out a little bit later that threat, who's the one, like, they don't know who's going to perpetrate it. But we find out that Aldrich was the one who was supposed to go perpetrate that threat. So it's like they find out there's an imminent threat. We're still looking through the eyes of a one-way spy thing. And then we find out later, like, oh, he's a double agent, and he was the threat. So he found out that their government found out that the Australian government is trying to come after the Chancellor. And guess what? They don't know yet, but Aldrich is the one that was supposed to do the lifting, And we find out a little later. I don't know.
So if that's the case, there has to be a time where Aldrich, Germany finds out, but before they can get the information, he stops it before they get the information that Australia is coming after them. So maybe, like, another agent has found the information and Aldrich just kills him, and he erases the drive or whatever holding the information.
Or it can play out, if it plays out this way, where we go through the eyes of, like, we don't know yet. I mean, we already know he's a double agent, but the audience doesn't know it at this point in time. And then, they find out, okay, there's an imminent threat. Aldrich could frame a different agent for the one who's trying to perpetrate the threat. And maybe not even a different agent. There's a different person, an extremist actor that he can put pin this on. And they pin it on someone, and they're like, okay, this particular threat is neutralized. And then he's like, we go back, and he's like, he has to figure out, like, how in the hell did they find out? And that might lead us down a interesting corridor. Okay. Because I'm just trying to keep this, like, from the audience perspective, keep them thinking that this is our good guys, and one of them is, and one of them isn't. And the longer we can stretch it before we break that bubble is going to be a surprise, a reverse. So the two walk away, get in the car, and open up this package. And
what if he's just framing his best friend the whole time?
Not yet. That's for second and third act. And he tries to come after him, maybe, or before he comes after him. Right now, everything is gravy.
Aldrich is cold-blooded.
Aldrich. The two walk away, right, and get in the car and open up the package. Inside, so, like, there shouldn't really be anything, but inside is the potential location of the assassination attempt, like all the particulars about the assassination attempt. They just don't know. All right, so inside is the.
Are you saying they get this package from the observatory?
Yeah, because they go to the observatory. There's some other anonymous men who we just like, oh, they work there, and they hand them over this thing, and inside is the details.
So they meet with some informants.
Yeah, is the details of the attempt. However, the name of the person, the assassinator or whatever, the assassin, is a nickname that they're unfamiliar with, right? And so this gives, he still has his anonymity. Now he has to pin it on someone else and then be like, okay, well, I saved my own butt.
The nickname is Tarantula.
All right. Okay. So Hans
It's Tarantula.
should stake out the location and wait to see who shows up to plant. That's a good idea. However, they should get some rest first, then come back in a few hours. Get some rest and some food and some real food. Or maybe, maybe there's some children or some family members. Get some rest, see the family, and then come back in a few hours. Basically, I'm thinking this might be a good idea to separate everyone for a second, so that way it gives him a chance to either try to communicate with the Australians or,
maybe Hans tries to invite Aldrich over to his family's house for dinner. And Aldrich is like, no, I have plans.
Yeah, Hans invites Aldrich to come over. He needs to go home. Hans drops off Aldrich and he goes inside. So now we're going to make it seem like everything's up to code. He pours himself a drink, slides off his shoes. Looks like he's just getting ready to relax. Now, maybe he has, in some spy movies, they have like a globe and then they open it up and there's a communication machine inside of it, or, we have to hide his communication.
No, he puts a SIM card into his burner phone.
Okay.
And walks outside.
Then takes out a burner phone from behind a book in his bookcase.
Inserts the SIM card.
Inserts the SIM and steps outside. Oh, and then dials a number while stepping outside. Over the phone, we hear him say they've figured out a bombing or an assassination attempt was to happen on X day. So still, we don't know. The person on the phone tells him to figure it out. And maybe that's all it is. Figure it out. It's like kind of vague. We don't know. Like, yeah, he needs to figure it out. We don't know that he's the person on the phone. What they actually mean by figure it out is like, basically, don't get yourself incriminated. Figure it out. Let's get someone else. So, all right.
They're telling him to carry out the mission.
Carry out the mission and to not get himself incriminated. Yeah, I mean, all right. He's telling them, they figure out this assassination attempt. And they're like, okay, figured it out. And what the audience doesn't know just yet is, they may think, who's he on the phone with? His boss or someone he's not supposed to be on? It's just a question mark. Who's he on the phone with? And he has to figure it out. But what does that mean? It's vague. Figure out. Yeah, he does have to figure it out. So Hans picks up Aldrich and they go to the spot, the meetup, the assassination spot. So now we gotta get ourselves out of this. So he either needs to get himself out of this, get some poor smuck to be the fall guy, or he has to take out Hans, or he has to get himself into a bit of trouble here, and then the story picks up. I don't know which part this is just yet. I don't know. There's a couple options. We could be at the part where he gets himself in trouble and he has to make a dash for it. We could be at a spot where he just gets someone else in trouble, and then another assassin. What would happen after that would be he would have to set up another assassination attempt, and then we would watch him prepare to do that assassination. And then it failed, and then he hurt someone else.
Okay, so you're thinking this is going to be a failed assassination attempt.
I think this right here is not. I think so. He's here because Hans wants to see if maybe if they stake it out where the original assassination is supposed to happen, they can find out who the person is. They're not. I don't think they should find out who the person is just yet in this section. Even if it's the decoy.
So should Hans try to carry? Should Aldrich try to carry out the assassination right now and fail and just cover it up?
Actually, maybe
because he could be like.
So maybe this is an event. It's a parade or some kind of something. It's an event that has drawn out their leader into the public, and the window is open for him here and now. So he has to figure this thing out and still do it without getting caught. So it might be something like that. And you know, maybe he sends Hans on a goose chase while he tries to do this thing. You know, he has to climb up these stairs and into this building and in this little section. You know,
I'm trying to think about that.
Yeah.
Maybe he calls for like a delivery of something to that spot, and it looks suspicious. And he's like, Hans, like, I'll cover. Go check out that delivery guy. I don't think we were expecting any deliveries.
Well, think of it like this. So we may pull up in the car. They're like, all right, this is it. You know, everyone's there doing their thing. And maybe they have a descriptor of who the assassinator is supposed to be. And this is all a decoy or BS, but it's still a decoy. So Hans set it up to where maybe this whole thing, Aldrich had set it up so that way it would be found out that this was going, like, maybe part of the plan is they need to find out that it's going to happen. I'm going to set them, well, we have this conversation where figure it out. So like maybe they don't, but you know, maybe he reworks it and it's like part of the plan where, you know, okay, be on the lookout for this person. We have a descriptor. Doesn't look like him though. And then this person takes off running. You know, they unknowingly, convincingly become like who they think the target is. While that's happening, he's doing his thing. He's like, I'm gonna cut him off, or I don't know. And he goes up into the room. There's a sniper waiting for him, or a detonator, or something, and he's trying to do the job.
Yeah,
because I almost have this idea that wherever they are at, it has to be, you know, something busy, this festive, some kind of festive activity, and the prime minister is out. You know, maybe they just won. Maybe the idea here is they just won re-election, and how they talk. You know, they win and they get on stage and they thank everyone and they talk about the future and where they're going to head and blah, blah, blah. And he's like trying to use this opportunity as a chance to, what if, okay, so let's say he gets, all right, let's just make believe for a second. He gets to this place. He's in the little room, got the sniper. The new formed president or, you know, chancellor or whatever comes out. Or not new, but like, you know, first, second, third, or whatever term. And they're like, you know, thanking everybody, blah, blah, yada. Shot goes off. Pow, kills him. Thinks it's a success. Everyone traces, like, where did that come from? Must come from over there. Check the buildings. He needs to get out without being caught, right? And then it comes, so he thought he successful in that regard. Come to find out, it's a decoy.
Stunt man?
Like, yeah, pretty much. Like, it's just that's supposed to look like the actual prime.
Okay, I'm with you. I was trying to figure out how he distracts Hans. I feel like a funny way. I mean, it'd be kind of entertaining. He pays like some like conspiracy theorist who's really a young guy who really doesn't like the chancellor either. Pays him to play a prank on the president. Basically, gives him like a glitter bomb. Tells him like drop it. Like be suspicious. Wear this hoodie. Drop this off by the stage. And then when he sees him, he's like, Hans, who's that guy by the stage dropping off the book bag? And then Hans rushes him, and then they arrest the dude, put him in cuffs, looks in his bag, and it's just the prank glitter bomb. But while that commotion's happening, your boy Aldrich makes his way to the sniper tower, or the room where the sniper is, sets up, fires the shot, because the quote-unquote president is isolated now.
Right.
He fires the shot, kills him, causing more mayhem. Come to find out.
So we'll say is Hans and other troops rush in to get the guy who placed the book bag. Aldrich slips away. Okay, I got you. Here's what's going to happen. Aldrich slips away, and when Hans finally catches up, he's like, "Yo, where'd you go?" He's like, "I heard the shots, and I ran towards it, whatever." Right. So Aldrich slips away and into an adjacent building. He climbs the stairs and enters an empty room, except for a duffel bag that lays
Sniper
in the corner.
Assemble a sniper.
It lays in the corner. Aldrich opens the bag and reveals a sniper. He puts it together. He takes his position.
Looks through the scope. He sees the quote-unquote president.
Hold on, you gotta make it tantalizing. Takes position. Looks through the scope. It focuses on Hans.
Ah,
then bounces over to the Chancellor.
who's behind, who has two secret bodyguards protecting him, but he still has a clear shot.
Aldridge removes his eye from the scope. We're here to think that maybe, he's just being safe, but then places his eye back on the scope, focuses his breath, and shoots the Chancellor straight dead in the head.
Headshot, dead.
Everyone freaks out. The scope bounces back to Hans, who looks up towards his building and points to the troops nearby to enter. All right. Now, Aldrich needs to escape. He places the sniper in the bag and tosses it down a trash chute.
That's what I was going to say.
He tosses it down a trash chute. He runs to the stairwell. We hear people coming up. He runs. So he runs to the other.
No, I feel like he should meet them.
Well, if he comes down, he meets them.
No, he should go a different way.
Right.
And meets them.
But exactly. So he needs to figure out, he can't come down. If they're coming up, he can't come down on them. He either has to come up from an adjacent stairwell and then kind of play it off as if he just got up there too.
Let's say he parkours his way to the floor below. So when they're coming up, he's coming this way.
How in the world does he get to the floor below, though? That's the question.
Jumps on some windowsills.
Because remember, jumps on some windowsills. Well, look, he runs over to another stairwell and runs down. They haven't gotten to it yet.
Yeah.
When he thinks it's safe, he begins his descent up, or his descent. He begins running up, clearing floors, or wherever the nearest floor is, right? So then what happens is, on that same floor, he runs into the team. On the same floor, he runs into the team, and they almost shoot each other, but Aldrich yells out. He's coming up from the west side of the building. They move on, and Aldrich played them. Okay, we are now outside of the building. Aldrich looks busy scanning the building when Han steps over to him and asks where he was.
Said he heard the shots.
He explains he heard the shots and entered the building looking for the shooter. Hans tells him, so okay, the question is, now what? Does Hans think he's lying? Does Hans,
I think before Hans jumps to any conclusions, they get pulled into a debrief, and that's when they discover that the Chancellor had a stuntman posing as him.
Yeah. So he explains here to Sean. Hans looks confused, maybe puzzled, as he's about to say something. The team, they are told by their superior to join a meeting in a setup. What do you call that? A command center, that they set up on the premise. In there, it's revealed that the Chancellor is still safe, as they knew he would be attacked. They are narrowing in on the assassin. That gives him a little bit of are they actually narrowing in on the right assassin? Are they coming after me? Makes him, play with the paranoia aspect of it. They're narrowing in on the assassin. So now he's like, shh, do they have my number called or not? Reveals the guy with the book bag is somehow involved, and he will be interrogated. Okay, so we have our setup here. We have about 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And so now we just need to this is actually a really good setup. We have this little bluff, the action. Okay, now we just have to hit our points in the next 10 minutes. So he's going to be interrogated. maybe Hans does the interrogation, and the guy reveals something.
Well, the guys just be like, some guy offered to pay me $1,000 to put this book bag on the stage or something.
Yeah, and we find out. So, like, after that happens, Hans does the interrogations. That's literally the next thing. We find out he was given money to place a bag full of
Glitter bombs.
Yeah, by the stage. Who, they ask, right?
He doesn't know. He doesn't know.
He doesn't know. All he wants is his lawyer. Okay. So now we somehow have to get what's his name in trouble here.
Get Hans in trouble?
No, well, maybe. Well, or Aldrich. Like, Aldrich has to. Is the story? I picture the story as being more of a hunt for Aldrich at a certain point.
Yeah, so should it be he frames Hans and then Hans hunts for him, or?
Okay, hold on. So Hans does this. Hans steps out. Okay, Hans steps out of the interrogation room. His superiors are looking at him funny, and someone places cuffs
On Hans?
Yeah, on his wrist. They put him in handcuffs. He's like, what? Like, what's going on?
We don't know why.
Right. So,
I think we have to speed things up. But I was thinking about ways on how Aldrich could have framed Hans. Like, one of the things I was thinking about was, like, he grabbed his phone, asked him if he could use his phone for a phone call because his phone is dead, but it's not really. And then Aldrich, from his burner phone, airdrops some revealing evidence that points back to Hans as the assassin.
Well, we could just say there's, evidence on his phone. That doesn't. So, like, Hans is confused, tries to fight them off, but they tell him not to resist. They know he's the one. There's evidence on his phone that reveals he's the assassin.
He is Code Tarantula from the files.
He's the assassin. Aldrich tells Hans he will help him, and he knows he's not the one. Just appearance's sake. So tell him he's not the one. Aldrich goes to a secret. I'm gonna start getting very vague. Secret location where his handler from Australia awaits. We find out he failed his mission, and he should have known there was a dummy. Aldrich tells them or reassures them he'll figure something out. We
gotta incorporate pay and contrary. So I think
this is someone else, and he's still safe. All right.
So hear me out. I think because of the assassination attempt, they escort the Chancellor to somewhere safe. And let's just say it's a cottage in the country where there's horses and hay.
Yeah.
And he's being kept there. And the only people that know are the people that are on his detail. And obviously, Hans and Aldrich are part of that team. So he's there. And that he tries to figure something out there.
Okay. So he can remember. So he'll figure something out. Excuse me. Aldrich remembers there's a backup safe house for the Chancellor in the country.
Cottage in the countryside.
Aldrich gets to the outskirts of the city, walks through the fields of hay. He's hiding. So he walks through these fields of hay. We also use contrary. I think I just used the word remember, right? So
contrary.
So that's the last thing we have to use. Contrary to popular belief. All right. So he walks through the field.
We used that in the beginning.
Yeah.
Like when Hans is expressing his disdain for the Prime Minister in Australia, you just say, well, contrary to Hans's strong opinion, Aldrich is indifferent about this political landscape. But he's really not. He's just
okay.
That's his act, basically.
Yeah.
He's trying to say he's all about just staying neutral and just doing his job. That's the
contrary to Hans. Aldrich wonders how Australians can bear their trading. However, they are doing what they need to do to survive and live free. All right, so that's contrary to Hans, more or less. All right, so
while Aldrich is on the farm or cottage,
bro. All right, hold on one sec. We have 51 seconds, so we just gotta plop
That's what I was saying. So while Aldrich is plotting his assassination on the cottage, Hans is trying to clear his name, and he's like, "Can you check the logs on my computer? Who could have gotten on there?"
Yeah.
And then they trace that back to Aldrich somehow.
Okay.
And then he's like, "Holy crap, it's Aldrich. We have to go to the cottage right now." And that's where they have their standoff.
Yeah.
They're wrestling in the hay.
Yeah. And Aldrich fighting the hay.
They're fighting in the hay, trying to stab each other with pitchforks and whatever weapons they find. And then Hans kills him.
Hans kills him. Okay. That's hilarious. There's also a portion of that can go into, the Australian government and all that stuff, though. Maybe we just didn't have enough time. I think we have a pretty good setup that we might be able to shimmy and jimmy an ending there.
Yeah. I'm trying. Let's see. Fronts are we're going to have to improvise that.
Yeah. And I think somewhere in there, as we were discussing with Australia, they kind of give up hope on him, and, he's kind of, being hunted by both sides, or maybe both sides just means Australia just forgoes him, and then on his side, Hans is the one that needs to do the deed, and we still have this fight. So I think it actually still may work. We just have to, we can just explain.
Yeah. The words. All right. Well, we're going to have to improvise that at the end. I'm not sure what that looks like quite yet.
We might just have to bounce it, but we're close, so it shouldn't be too much
Yeah, we're close. We're close.
It shouldn't be too much back and forth.
For the first time in 17 episodes, we were not able to finish completely, but we're going to finish through the magic.
Finished. By the time I put down Hans kills him, it was like a millisecond after the thing went off. I just couldn't type fast enough.
We're going to use the magic of improvisation to add some flavor towards the end.
Right. That's right.
But to recap for everyone, the 5 words we were given were remember, cheese, hay, contrary, and troop. But we were also given 2 random images. One of the Horizon Observatory, which is located in Germany, and then another of a pomegranate. So using those elements, we had to create our story.
Yeah.
Of our double agent.
Yeah.
Hans. All right.
Now,
so
I don't mind going through our beginning here all the way up to, well, what do you want? Do you want to do the sniper stuff? We get inside the room and then he does the killing and then we keep going and then we just kind of back and forth it for the end.
Yeah, that sounds good. I'll do the sniper.
Yeah.
I'll do the sniper to when Hans gets out of custody and on his way to the farm, and then we can start back and forthing it from there.
So I'll get you to the empty room where we see the duffel bag, and then let you have the fun of the little action sequence. And then you said we'll back and forth it around
when Hans gets to the cottage. I got it.
Aldrich remembers there's a backup safe house. Okay, all right, somewhere around there. Okay, cool. All right, we are ready to tell you this story. Okay, we begin our story in a cafe outside, close to the Horizon Observatory dump. As we sit in this cafe, we see people going about their day, sophisticated folks sipping coffee, drinking tea, having desserts and snacks. We come across our first and main character, Aldrich, as he sits with a board of cheese and pomegranates laid out in front of him. Across from him is his friend and partner, Hans, who's sipping on some coffee, discussing some information regarding the new uprising in Australia. Hans expresses his worry and disdain for the Prime Minister in Australia. It seems he's doing everything he can to isolate his country even further and not even trade with anyone else. This has caused major disruptions, not just for the whole of Europe, but especially for Germany, of which the country they live and protect. Contrary to Hans, Aldrich believes that what the PM in Australia is doing, though he may disagree to an extent, is what he feels they need to do in order to survive and live free. It's so important for a people to live free and govern themselves freely to Aldrich that if the Australians feel like they need to separate themselves from the rest of the world and trade and only have very specific trading partners, then who are they to be the ones to be upset with them? Hans rolls his eyes and shakes his head. At that very moment, the timer goes off. It's at the top of the hour. The two, without saying a word to each other, get up, place some money on the table, and walk out of the cafe. We see their figures as they walk up the mountain of the dump. Serene as it is, for some reason, on this particular night, there's very few people walking the trails. As we get to the top of the mountain, the duo walks down the path, and we see two mysterious figures waiting in the distance. By their gaze, we can assume they are waiting for them. Hans and Aldrich stop in front of these men. Their faces covered in shadows, their features somehow discreet. One of the men hands over a file in a vanilla envelope. Without a single word, the two walk away. Hans and Aldrich turn around and walk away from that pathway, each sets of men going opposite directions. As they get into the car, Aldrich opens up the package. Inside are the details of an attempted assassination due to happen at the re-elected chancellor's upcoming celebration for being re-elected. There's a nickname in the package that identifies the assassin. However, it's unknown who this is meant to be. Hans believes they should stake out the grounds that very night, a way to see if anyone mysterious shows up to plant either a bomb or to somehow act in ill will. Aldrich reassures Hans that actually is a good idea. However, their next day is going to be long and restless. They should take the time now to rest and see their families and come back in a few hours. Hans tells Aldrich he's more than welcome to come over. His wife hasn't seen him in a while. And of course, he has a spare bedroom in which he could sleep in. They can leave right from his house. Aldrich declines politely, tells him he needs to go home to shore up a few things on the home front. With just a shrug, they leave and drive off into the night. Hans drops off Aldrich. He goes inside. He loosens his tie, takes off his shoes, pours himself a drink, puts down the vanilla envelope, and walks over to the bookcase in his study. He places his hand behind the bookcase and pulls out a phone. On the bottom of the shelf, stuck to the bottom of the shelf, is a SIM card. He pulls out the SIM card and places it into this hidden phone. He dials a number while stepping outside into the backyard. Over the phone, we hear say they figured out the bombing, or they figured out the assassination attempt as to happen tomorrow. However, I'm not worried. The mysterious voice on the phone tells him, okay, figure it out. They hang up. Aldrich removes the SIM, takes a swig of his straight whiskey, and goes back inside to relax. It is now the next day. Hans pulls up outside of Aldrich's home, and they drive over to the festival spot of soon-to-be celebration of the re-election of the chancellor. The place is packed and busy with people. All those who support the chancellor have out banners, face paint, and other knickknacks in order to support their chancellor on winning the re-election. Aldrich sees a guy before the chancellor takes stage with a book bag. He gets Hans' attention and points out to the guy who looks suspicious to him. This man places the book bag near the stage, looks around suspiciously, and begins to walk away. Hans alerts some other troops, and he tells them on walkie-talkie to rush in. That's their guy. Get to that book bag. Hans and other troops in formation rush over to this man in the book bag, securing it. As this happens, Aldrich slips away and weaves his way through the crowd and into an adjacent building that sits in front of the stage. He climbs the stairs silently, stops on the floor, opens the door, enters an empty room, empty except for a duffel bag that lays in the corner.
Aldrich makes his way towards the corner and picks up the duffel bag. After he picks it up, he walks towards the center of the room, pointed towards the stage. He drops the duffel bag, unzips it, and pulls out a bunch of parts. And he quickly assembles it like a playset of Legos into a sniper, using what he learned from his training. To end it, he takes a silencer from the bag, screws it on the end, and sets himself up, being prone and taking a look through his scope. We see through the scope that his target is set on Hans, right on Hans's head. He's looking there. But quickly, it's shifted to the left and pointed at the Chancellor, who's standing behind two of his security details, thinking that he's safe. Hans takes a breath in, puts his finger on the trigger, and begins to focus. After a second, he pulls on the trigger. A muffled bullet releases from the end of the sniper through the window, going straight at the Chancellor and successfully hitting the Chancellor in the side of the head, splattering his blood over his security detail on the stage. Mayhem ensues. Everyone's screaming, trying to escape, running everywhere. Hans, while on the ground, is looking up, wondering where the shot came from. He catches a flash of light coming from the building, and he immediately tells his troops to go check that building. Aldrich, in the meantime, is packing up. He's unscrewing everything, disassembling the sniper, putting everything in the bag, finds the nearest trash chute, and just throws it down the trash chute. He hears the troops on the ground floor entering the building and making their way up the stairs. Now somehow he needs to finagle his way around. He escapes through an emergency exit onto a floor just right below his, goes through, walks himself into a room, and just sits there and waits. When he hears the troops coming onto his floor, at the same time he walks out of the room that he was in with his gun up and points it at the troops while they point their gun at his. And immediately they lower their weapons, asking how Hans got here. And Hans was like, I heard glass breaking, so I immediately checked this building. So Hans returns to the ground floor where everything is happening. Or Aldrich, I'm sorry. Returns to the ground floor, meets Hans. Hans is questioning him. He's wondering, Aldrich, where were you? And Aldrich explains to him that he heard shots, a breaking of glass coming from an adjacent building. So he went to go check. And immediately there, he caught up with the troops and they couldn't find anything. Before Hans can even question Aldrich, even though it seems kind of fishy to him, the security team calls everyone into a emergency debrief. That is where it's explained that the Chancellor, quote unquote, that was killed on stage was actually a stuntman hired by the Germany's government because they knew of the assassination attempts beforehand. Aldrich is looking calm, but in his head, he's like, damn, I failed. So now Hans is set to interrogate the man that they apprehended at the celebration. He goes in the room. It's this one young guy who's just clueless and just has a personal vendetta against Germany's government. Hans asks him, who hired you to place the bag there? The man doesn't know. He said, it was just a strange man. I didn't get a good look at his face. He said he would give me 1,000 euros to place this bag near the stage. And he said it was just a prank. It's just glitter bombs. Hans is getting frustrated, knowing that he can't get any information out of this guy, so he walks out. That's when he's confronted by two other agents. And they said, Hans, put your hands behind your back and face the wall. Hans is confused. He refuses. So he gets shoved against the wall by the two agents, handcuffed. And he asks, what is this for? What did I do? And they explain to him that he's being detained for the attempted assassination of the Chancellor. Meanwhile, while this is going on, Aldrich is meeting at a secret location and meets one of his handlers from Australia. The handler explains their disappointment in how he failed his mission and how he should have saw this coming. Aldrich says he'll figure something out. He knows of where the Chancellor is being escorted to because of all the mayhem and hysteria. The Chancellor is being escorted right now without anyone knowing besides the security detail and the team that Hans just happens to be on. He's being escorted to his cottage out in the countryside. So that's where Aldrich says he'll do the deed. Meanwhile, Hans is in a interrogation room. Now he's the one being interrogated, trying to clear his name. He says, it's not me. go check my logs on my computer. Someone must have sent that information to my phone. So they do some cross-checking, and they realize through some security cameras that Aldrich was the last man to enter the room. So they begin to suspect Aldrich. Now Hans puts together the pieces that if Aldrich is the killer or assassin, he must be headed towards the Chancellor's cottage to finish the deed, because he knows of where the Chancellor is escorted to. He tells the security team to let him go, that they need to go find Aldrich right now. They release him, and Hans makes his way to the cottage. Meanwhile, in the cottage, it's night. Aldrich is being silent, working his way through fields of wheat, hiding behind a barn where the horses and hay bales are kept. He gets a good surrounding, gets an idea of what the security is like around the cottage. There's 2 men up front, probably a few other men inside on each floor, and he devises his plan, and he makes his way there. Meanwhile, we flash back to Hans. Hans is pulling up to the cottage now. Gets out of his car, pulls out his gun, starts making his way towards the house. He sees 2 men on the ground. He checks the first guy's pulse. Dead. He goes to the other man, checks his pulse. Also dead. He starts making his way towards the back. And in the kitchen, we see a guard standing, just guarding the kitchen. And we see a wire being strapped around his neck. And he's being strangled. He's trying to catch his breath, trying to get the wire off, but it's too late. His neck snaps, and Aldrich is making his way through the cottage. Aldrich peeks, looks up at the next floor. He sees 2 men pacing back and forth, and he tries to devise his plan from there. But then he hears, "Get your hands up, Aldrich." It's Hans. He's pointing his gun at him. Aldrich turns around, and he says, "How did you know it was me?" And Hans says, "We got you. You're a traitor. Just put your weapon down, or else I'll be forced to shoot you." Hans slowly lowers his pistol, but in his sock, he pulls out a knife and flings it towards Hans. Hans dodges the knife as it hits the wall behind him, and then I'll let you go from here.
Put me in a good spot. So Hans dodges the knife. The knife hits the wall behind him and sticks out. The 2 security guards upstairs that are pacing back and forth hear the commotion and come down, ready and blazing with their guns. As Hans gets up from dodging, Aldrich takes out one of the guards from upstairs, uses his gun to shoot the second guard that was coming down the stairs. Using the body shield of the man, he's using his assault rifle. He aims the gun at Hans. Hans ducks behind a cabinet, ducks behind a wall, and bullets spray that whole section from the stairway. Aldrich takes a good look, yells out to Hans, "It didn't have to be this way. You could have been brought in. I don't want to hurt someone that I respect." But Hans reaffirms and yells back that he does not hold any respect for a traitor of Germany, and that he should feel ashamed of himself. He took an oath. They both took an oath when they went through the academy together, and he's betrayed his brothers and sisters and his country. Aldrich shakes his head and says, "No, you don't understand. Our country betrayed us, and I am here to set it right." Aldrich kicks the guard that he was using as a shield down the stairs and climbs the rest of the stairs. Hans peeks behind the wall to see if it's safe to come out, and hears some commotion upstairs as his footprints are loud and booming while he walks searching for the Chancellor. Aldrich yells out to the Chancellor. He hears a commotion behind the door, runs over to the door, kicks it in. Chancellor, shocked and surprised, pulls up a pistol as self-defense, but clearly doesn't know what he's doing. He tries to use it, and Aldrich shoots him in the arm, dropping the pistol. Aldrich walks over to the Chancellor and all of his grievances that he had with the Chancellor, and explaining to him that the Chancellor winning a re-election is perhaps one of the worst things that can ever happen to Germany, and he must come to an end. He must be stopped. As this is happening, and Aldrich is pointing his weapon at the Chancellor, Hans enters into the doorwell, holding his pistol, aiming it at Aldrich. We have ourselves a situation. Aldrich, pointing his weapon, finger on the trigger, not much force, can take out the Chancellor. Hans is pointing his gun at Aldrich. Hans comes into the room and positions himself. So we have ourselves a triangle. He's telling Aldrich that this is not the way. In their society, people are voted in. It's a democratic society. It's what the people want. Who is he to try to represent all the people? The people have spoken. Aldrich, in return, tells him people do not know what they want and tries to convince Hans to join him. One last time, sussing out the situation, Hans begins to see things the way Aldrich sees things. Tells him he doesn't fully understand, but maybe he's right in some way, somehow. Aldrich gets more and more excited and more animated as he feels like his buddy is finally seeing the truth. Chancellor looks at Aldrich, looks at Hans, thinks he's in a terrible situation with these two men who seem to be agreeing with each other. Aldrich walks around and is about to kill the Chancellor when one shot rings out. Hans has shot Aldrich through the heart. His body stiffens up, can't seem to catch his breath or stand. He falls back, dropping his weapon, and his life slowly dwindling. Hans steps over to Aldrich, a tear in his eye, and tells him he is so sorry he wasn't there to help him sooner. The rest of the government team step in. This whole place is a crime scene. They begin to process it. Hans is sitting on a police car, smoking a cigarette, wondering what did he do so wrong? What did he get so wrong to not understand his own partner, someone that he invited in his house? Their supervisor comes over and tells him they may never know what caused him to switch sides, but Hans needs to turn active and begin to investigate who was working with Aldrich here in Germany. They need him now more than ever. And now the fight has to be given to Australia. The end.
There we go. Story. Our double agents.
Double agent with an opportunity for a sequel, Hans.
That's right. Now Hans is double agent. Oh man, not bad. Not too shabby. Not too shabby. Obviously, with a lot more time, we could definitely massage more details in it. Make the framing more interesting and give more details on that. But all in all, I'd say that's a pretty entertaining story.
Yeah. I think given it more time, we could go to different places and make it more exciting in a lot of different ways. But it's a tight story as it is, and it could be bigger with more themes. And Australia can become something that fits more into their motives and can be more found out. And their abandonment could be something an interesting angle. But
yeah,
something pretty interesting.
Yeah, for sure. All right, let's see what our AI friend can come up with. Okay, so you can say, can you make a story using the words number, contrary, pomegranate, and have the story use the Horizon Observatory in one of the scenes, make it about a double agent and turmoil between two countries. Let's see what countries they figure out. They use. All right, let's press enter.
Contrary, true, pomegranate, and have the story use Horizon Observatory in one of the scenes. Oh,
too many requests. Please try again later.
Oh,
we stumped the AI.
Did
regenerate response?
Who continues to work and not process later? People. I wonder if it's trying to figure out what the Horizon Observatory is, and it's like, wait,
maybe we might have to use a different model because the latest model seems to be too busy. So we have to use 3.5. 3.5.
Here we go.
We got Jackie boy.
Yeah. Okay. Double agent turmoil.
Double agent turmoil. Once upon a time, in a world of espionage and double agents, there was a man named Jack. Jack was a spy who worked for two different countries, and he was tasked with keeping secrets from both sides. Jack's job was not an easy one, and he often found himself in the middle of turmoil between the two nations. He remembered the first time he was given this task and how he felt a pang of guilt in his stomach. but Jack was determined to do his job and do it well. One day, Jack was contacted by a troop of spies from one of the countries he'd worked for. They needed him to obtain classified information from the other country, and they promised him a reward of a large block of cheese if he was successful. Jack knew he had to act quickly, so he made his way to the Horizon Observatory, a popular spot for spies to exchange information. But there he met with his contact from the other country, and they exchanged secret documents hidden in a bale of hay. As Jack made his way back to his own country, he felt a sense of unease. He knew that he was acting contrary to his own conscience, but he pushed those thoughts aside and focused on his mission. When he returned to his home country, Jack was greeted with a pomegranate, the traditional symbol of victory. He handed over the documents and collected his reward, but he couldn't help but feel a sense of emptiness inside. Hold on, I gotta get my breath back here before I start laughing.
Cheese got you, man. They said, no,
I wasn't expecting that.
just a bit of cheese.
As soon as I read that,
So you know what this is?
like-
Jack's a mouse, and this all takes place from a mouse perspective.
as soon as I read that, it took a second for my mind to process.
It took me, I was like, wait, what? He gets what?
Jack knew he couldn't continue to live a double life forever, and eventually the truth caught up to him. He was caught between two countries and faced a difficult decision. In the end, he chose to reveal his double agent status and turn himself in. As he sat in his prison cell, Jack realized he had made the right choice. He had learned that there are some things more important than money or cheese, and
No.
that his conscience was worth more than anything else in the world.
No.
Money or cheese?
I think chat has failed miserably this time. It might be the worst it's ever done. And then it decided to end to make him, he turned himself in and went to jail. And he's like, yeah, this is the greatest decision I've ever made. That's not interesting, man.
He gave up his block of cheese, though, and his pomegranate.
So when he returned, he got a pomegranate. Yeah.
And they exchanged documents through a bale of hay.
That's the only thing that was like okay, maybe. But
I'm messing with the block of cheese, though. It could be a block of cheese made of some rare gold.
Chat 0. Dave and Kev up 1 on this one. I mean,
I got to give it to chat for giving me a good laugh. I wasn't expecting that.
I mean, I'm telling you, unless it's like, you ever seen that movie? I think it was a Disney movie back in the day, The Great Mouse Detective. Unless it's about a bunch of mice. That's the only way this works. That was nonsense.
Definitely by far the worst story chat has ever come up with.
Yeah, that was nonsense.
The funniest one.
But the funniest one, indeed. Yeah, no, that was
at the same time. This is one of those.
I think that prompt was pretty hard because it had to work with some things that they're very random. Like usually we can tie a couple of them together.
It was super random,
and like each one was just like, oh, okay, like we had to use them in a way that was tougher. And then use pomegranate, and then this place that I don't think it knows where it is.
No, it's just made up. I just put it as a name for some place.
Right.
So, double agents exchange information through bales of hay.
That's hilarious.
The block of cheese, man.
We'll take the W easily on this one.
But you know what? Hats off to ChatGPT for throwing in the curveball there. It got me. I didn't see that coming.
Certainly unexpected.
Right. Well, we got to come with a title.
That's right. So I have
Double Agent Cheese.
That's right. I got Double Agent, A Partner's Secret, Secrets of a Double Agent, Re-Election Day, and Espionage.
My best friend is a spy. Pomegranate and cheese.
Off the Horizon.
Double Agent. It's pretty the most obvious one.
I think, well, it could be something that's very like blunt, and they're like, this is what the story is. Or it could be something that's a little more, I don't know.
But you have no idea this way.
Yeah. That's why I was like off the horizon for the Horizon Observatory dump.
That's why it's pomegranate and cheese. Like, what? How does this turn into a double agent?
Government secrets.
Aldrich, the extremist, double agent patriot.
Long days, short nights. That's nice and random. What do we call that? We called it a ranch or a farmhouse or something like that?
Cottage, I think.
Cottage? Oh, okay.
Agent Aldrich. Agent the Chancellor.
Excuse me. That's right. The Chancellor.
The Chancellor. That doesn't sound too bad either.
Because it is about him, and it's just vague. Like, it's still relevant, and it's just vague enough that you don't know it's a double agent, cross story until you watch it.
Right. Right. All right.
I think it shall be.
That is the Chancellor.
The Chancellor.
You heard it here.
That's right.
The Chancellor, episode 17. We'll be back next week with a new set of words.
Yes.
Maybe a new set of pictures, a new set of whatever else we decide to throw in.
That's right.
I definitely think the pictures threw in a flavor that kind of made it more difficult in some way. More so the spot. Pomegranate was kind of straightforward, but that place had a hard time figuring out what it would be used for.
Yeah.
But we found a use for it that made sense. All right.
Yeah.
We'll see you guys next week. Thanks for tuning in.
See you guys.